Hi, all. Welcome to this session of OB on power and politics. We shall dig a little deeper into both the concepts power and politics. Both are, as you may be aware, both are extremely prominent and important components of any organization's context, where people have to deal with the element of power and politics in various contexts, various scenarios. May it be resource allocation, may it be project allocations, or may it be promotions, or may it be strategic decisions, negotiations, conflict resolutions, collaborations, memoranda of association or understanding, wherever there is an element of influence and an element of dependence between two individuals, there is scope for power and politics to be exercised. Let's see what each of these means and what are the various factors, various dynamics that contribute to power and politics. Okay. Okay, so that's a pretty simple definition of power, as it says, a capacity that an individual has to influence the behavior of B, so that B acts in accordance with A's wishes. Right. So that's pretty clear. So when there is a power, when B is under the influence of A, which means B is dependent on A's action. B's future results are depending on A's action. In other words, there is a factor of dependency too involved in the power dynamics between two entities or two individuals, right? So it could be individuals, or it could be two entities too. It could be two departments, it could be two teams, or it could be two organizations, or it could be two nations. Many a time, if you see, where there is a dependency of one nation on the other by virtue of its economic strength, economic power. When a country is dependent on the other, you have dependency and you have the influence of one country over the other. Likewise, so dependency, B is a relationship to A when A possesses something that B requires, right? So that's pretty simple, self-explanatory. Say, for instance, those economies which are those inferior or dependent economies which are dependent on the superior economies, or the smaller or the employees depending upon the manager or leader, or you know so such situations where there is a factor of dependency between B and A, we see the scope for power to creep in and play the dynamics accordingly. Okay, that's a quick differentiation between leadership and power. Um, the leadership focuses on goal achievement, whereas power is used as a means to achieve those goals. Leadership is more far-sighted, much broader in its orientation, whereas power is an instrument which influential people might use as a means to achieve the goals they have set for themselves. Likewise, leadership requires goal compatibility with followers, whereas power requires follower dependency. Unless there is an element of dependency of B on A cannot exercise the power or cannot influence the behavior of B. As simple as that. Whereas in case of leadership, more than dependency, it's a collective spirit of togetherness and achieving a goal collectively all together, right? Likewise, leadership focuses influence downward, whereas power used to gain lateral and upward influence also. There is no cut and tailored direction necessarily for power. It can happen both the ways, upward as well as downward and lateral. Okay, that That takes us to various sources, various bases that uh, that can be the source of power, applying, exercising power. So that those are called the bases of power, from which can be the source of exercising power. Formal power, as the name suggests, is established by an individual's position in an organization. It could be manager, it could be senior manager, or it could be a vice president, it could be director, or it could be a vertical sponsor, a project sponsor, or it could be any of the CXOs, CEO, OOTO, all these people. As the rank and file grows up the hierarchy, the span of control expands and the influence of power increases. As simple as that. So taller the or higher the authority, or the label, the tag, the title, more the influence of power. Formal power is quite akin, is quite similar to legitimate power, where a person exercises the power by virtue of the responsibility, authority that one enjoys as a privileged being in certain position in an organization. Whereas coercive power, what do you mean by coercion? Coercion is when you are exercising your intimidation, your force, you are thrusting your power on others, and you are creating some kind of fear among others, and that's when that's how you are exercising power, by virtue of coercion, or that's called coercive power, right? um, okay. Reward power, as the name suggests, reward power, when you are getting things done by announcing a reward against the completion of certain job, that's reward power. Compliance achieved based on ability to distribute rewards that others view as valuable. Say completion of the project would get you a promotion. That's like a transactional, purely transactional reward power. So people are motivated, people are stimulated, boosted to take up the project and finish it off successfully. Okay, there we go. Legitimate power, as we discussed earlier, quite similar to formal power, where a person, power the person receives as a result of his or her position in the formal hierarchy of an organization. Information power, power that comes from access to and control over information. So there are certain people in an organization who are the custodians of some sensitive information about the organization, and they are powerful, and they are entrusted with the information, the privilege of access to information, with in a good faith and with a lot of trust that they will not misuse the power. um, However, there are numerous such examples in the history of organizational context, where people have indulged in things like insider trading, a breach of trust, and then and they have they have taken the sensitive organizational information out of the organization illegally, illegitimately, and traded it off with the people outside, right? So that's information power. Who from who is in possession of sensitive information or critical information. Expert power, again, as the name suggests, influence based on special skill. When someone is equipped with a special skill, a rare skill, or a critical skill, or extremely technical skill, which is not very liberally distributed among people, that makes the person, say for instance, now what is all around that you get to hear is artificial intelligence. And now if someone who comes with a hands-on experience of understanding the machine language, or the, the big data, definitely can exercise the expert power, and can gain can be can make way for oneself in the space. Referent power, as it says, influence based on possession by an individual of desirable resources or personal traits. Influence based on possession by an individual of desirable resources. So referent power, so power not absolutely because of oneself or one's own knowledge, but then because a person is in possession of desirable resources. Such a person may be of importance, such a person may be powerful, right? Say, for instance, say, uh, a project sponsor, right? A project sponsor um, is someone who is at the top of a project, who have people like project manager, project leader, and the project team below him or her. So, what makes him powerful? Not that he's an expert, or not that is an extremely capable, but then he's a sponsor of the project. He has all the resources, he has all the budget in his control that can run the project through its completion. That makes him, so possession of the desirable resources makes him a project makes him a powerful person by virtue of the possession of the resources. So whoever, it's not him basically or her, whoever is in possession of such desirable resources is is in possession of power because of the possession of resources. Likewise, charismatic power, as the name again suggests, people, some people, very few people who are blessed with this ability to influence people by virtue of their personality, their aura, you call it, or their interpersonal style. Some of the charismatic leaders, if you can illustrate, people like Richard Branson of Virgin Group or Elon Musk, they are more popular than their counterparts of similar businesses or even bigger businesses, or more popular, more widespread businesses, right? Like if I ask you who is the CEO or who is the founder of 3M, not very easy, because but then if you see 3M, or who is the founder or the CEO, present CEO of Caterpillar, right? They are also big companies, conglomerates, extremely successful companies. But then that is what sets these people, charismatic leaders, a class apart as compared to the others. They have a presence, they influence people by mere their presence. For instance, I can what I'm able to recall now, who I'm able to think of is Akio Morita. Akio Morita, the founder and the CEO, then the first CEO and the founding CEO of Sony Electronics, was thought to be such a charismatic charismatic leader, that wherever he goes, he takes the aura of convincing, compelling, or influencing people around him. That was the aura that he carried. Likewise, in the contemporary times, you can think of people like Elon Musk or Anand Mahindra, or some of the people that you can think of who carry extremely, or Sundar Pichai for that matter. Their presence lights the space around them is probably a simple description that we can attribute to charismatic leaders and the power that they carry. Okay. So those were the basis of the power, those were the sources of the power, and what we are looking at now are the tactics, power tactics, the ways in which individuals translate power bases into action. So now you know which power base are you supposed to act your power play on, whether you are an expert or you have the formal authority, or you have a referent power source, or you are a charismatic leader. You know which base are you playing your power dynamics on, and then using these tactics on the base, on the corresponding base that you belong to. Okay, so uh, those are the various ways in which, various tactics in which you play the power tactics, namely legitimacy. Legitimacy is where you are legitimately, genuinely, what you mean is what you say, right? Without resorting to any um, any indirect or intimidating mechanisms. You are legitimately, you believe that you have the power and you are playing it. Rational persuasion, where you are leading your dialogue, your stand with reasoning, with logic, with rational persuasion, with explanation, with what do you call, um, with the rational reasoning and explanation to your stand. You're going extremely logically by deconstructing your stand into a methodical steps to draw out the logic, the reason behind your stand, right? And that is followed by inspirational appeals, where you're inspiring, you're motivating. For instance, so rational persuasion. What could be an example of rational persuasion? When you are, say, for instance, when you are trying to persuade somebody to invest their wealth into your product. Your product could be a hedge fund, or a mutual fund, or whatever, or some financial instrument which promises returns. So how do you need to um, persuade? You have to deconstruct your stand into methodical, various rational, logical explanation, right? Where rationally you are explaining quantitatively as to how is the market designed, what are the elements of risk, and what is the length of time you are looking at, what is the amount of wealth you are looking at, and then how do you explain the growth of the wealth on the timeline, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years down the line. And so you're persuading, you're rationally persuading, giving no way to opinions or views or subjectivities, right? So that's one way you persuade. Followed by inspirational appeals, where, as it suggests, you are inspiring people by by motivating, by boosting, by appealing. Say, this is where you are more qualitative, you are more subjective in nature, and you're trying to arouse the emotional appeal of the people. Say, for instance, when the corporates are when there is a campaign for protecting environment, when there's a campaign to protect the climate, right, to reduce the carbon emissions, you see the communication of the campaign is built more on inspirational appeals. They show the greens are fading, animals dying, carbon increasing, quality of air decreasing, pollution decreasing, life is crippling, is diminishing on earth. Now that gives a inspirational appeal. Okay, boss, if we don't respond now, it may be too late in some years, so let's now act. Likewise, consultation, where the power tactic is by offering a consulting service, where you are more your this goes more with the expert power, where you are demonstrating your knowledge, your experience in certain area, where you offer your intervention as a consultant, as an expert of certain area, and you offer that this is my experience, this is how matured we are in terms of interventions, in terms of consulting services. So for instance, you take the organizations like McKinsey, IDEO, or KPMG, or Deloitte. What do these people do? They understand businesses, and they have been understanding businesses. They understand the dynamics, the internal dynamics, external dynamics. They understand competition, they understand strategy. So what do? They offer their expertise, their experience, and their skills their models, their strategy, their structures, their frameworks to other organizations, right? And they offer their consulting services likewise. Exchange exchange is where you are, it is more what they refer to as a quid pro quo. You have my X is with you, and your Y is with me, so let's trade X against Y, as simple as that. Any of these uh, mergers or acquisitions, or you take it's based on more of exchange. A big company will come to buy out, say for instance, you see many of these startup firms are being scooped out by the big firms, like you have seen Big Basket going to Tata, likewise Campa. I don't know how many of you would recognize Campa as one of the India's initial cold beverages, soft drinks. Um, Now it is going into Reliance's kitty. So what is the dynamic there? It's simple exchange. I have money for you, your business, and you have me. You have my tag. You have Reliance is buying Campa. Big Basket is Tata is buying Big Basket. So it's a very simple exchange of company for money, company for stake, business for stake, right? Personal appeals is also a nice tactic where a, a legitimate person is coming forward with a personal appeal to influence the behaviors of people. Where do you see personal appeals happening? Personal appeal, you can see, for instance, if you are aware of this chap called this gentleman called Kailash Satyarthi, who has been influencing thousands of people. Many corporates, in fact, have gotten together, collaborated with him in his initiative, and he takes up many of the societal flaws, um, namely, what do you call the uh, education for all, or child marriages, movement against child marriages. So all these are various societal scenarios where it requires a very collective, collaborative, a community level initiative, where one person is usually the initiator, who makes a very heartwarming appeal, and uh, and uh, uh, and it works in a very powerful manner. Right. Okay. Uh, Followed by ingratiation. What do you mean by ingratiation? Ingratiation is where you are simply flattering, you are getting things done by flattering others, by making them happy, by, in a very colloquial and rustic manner, if I have to put, by, they say, no, buttering, makhan lagana. That is ingratiation. Likewise, applying pressure is another power tactic. Uh, you have to play your dynamics by highlighting the timelines, the criticality, the sense of urgency. That's how you get people, um, get them moving ahead. So apply power. And coalitions. What is coalition? Coalition is forming teams, groups, to make a larger group more powerful. Coalition is a word which is more popular in the political circles, as you see political parties making big coalitions, and so that they stand stronger against the opposition. Usually you hear this kind of thing when the country is approaching elections, right? However, it is not confined to politics alone. You have coalitions even in the business context. So for instance, cartels are examples of cartels. As you see, what is a cartel? Cartel is where a group of companies come together, so that they administer the some of the critical decisions, like price mechanisms or the supply demand equations in the sector. So for instance, an example of a cartel where a group of companies are seen operating the entire space together is OPEC. I'm sure you must be um, familiar with OPEC. OPEC, it stands for Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. mostly the Middle East countries, which are the source of production of the oil. They form a cartel, and then they ensure that the administered mechanism, the price mechanism, supply demand, the barrel rates, all these are dealt with in a very prudent, wise, and a balanced manner. So that's a power attained by coalition. So those are various tactics applied to influence the people and apply power, exercise power on them. Those are power tactics. Followed by, you have okay, so we've discussed that coalitions. Okay, so what will happen when power gets unequal or power goes off the board, power goes derailed off the track? Then the undesirable, unwanted um, consequences start cropping up. So for instance, sexual harassment um, is an example of, or there could be other consequences like nepotism, favoritism, or suppression, or those kind of consequences are quite possible. Okay, that was about power, and that gets us into politics. When the power is in action, political behavior is inevitable, is a must, is inescapable. What is a political behavior? Activities that are not required as a part of one's formal role in organization. Pay attention to the definition. Definition is very interesting. It says activities that are not required as a part of one's formal role. As such, it is not a part of your service level agreement or your job's description or your job's analysis. However, it makes its way into your behavior subliminally, involuntarily, right? Activities that are not required as a part of one's formal role in the organization, but that influence or attempt to influence the distribution of advantages and disadvantages within the organization. What do you mean by distribution of advantages or disadvantages? What are the things of interest that are distributed? Budgets are distributed, I mean the promotions are distributed, resources are distributed, or the geographic locations are distributed, project locations are distributed, or the budget allocated for the hike in the salary is distributed. So whenever there is a resource of interest being distributed, a political behavior is likely to make its way into the behavior of people associated on the either sides of the decision that determines distribution of advantages or even disadvantages, right? Somebody has to be transferred, so we need a resource to be transferred to a remote area, a hilly area, or an area which is cut off, where probably you are going to set up a new office. Nobody is interested in going there. Now what happens? Political behavior will start creeping in. The boss, the employee who's closest to the boss will be the first one to go and approach the boss and say, boss, please prevent me from going there. Please do whatever I have done, whatever you wanted me to do. I have been I've been your trusted lieutenant. So please ensure this will be a help I need. So that is a political behavior. When the boss ensures that this employee is not to be sent to that geographic location, it's a exercise, it's an application of power resulting in a political behavior, right? So that's what we mean by activities not required as a part of the formal role, but then they influence the behavior of the people during the distribution of advantages or disadvantages within the organization. Okay, legitimate political behavior, normal, everyday politics, but when is it illegitimate? Illegitimate political behavior, extreme political behavior that violates the implied rules of the games. Like when you are taking some critical decisions, extremely strategic decisions, say for instance when you are inducting somebody into your board, it's a very important, very deterministic kind of decision, very critical decision. And when you bring somebody from your family or some of your friends or your acquaintances, so that the decision by the board is is falling in your favor as the founder or the CEO of the organization. That is illegitimate. That's not acceptable by the Securities Exchange Board of India or by any of the regulators concerned with such appointment of the directors of the board, right? So legitimate political behavior, like whatever acceptable, small scale, which whose intensity and impact is not going to be so much. But illegitimate, where is it extremely political and it is going to be intense. The impact of such a political behavior has an adverse effect on the organization. That's illegitimate. Okay. Okay, so those are various factors that influence political behaviors. High self monitors. So broadly, they are classified into uh, two categories. One, individual factors, and the other, organizational factors. What are the individual factors? High self monitors. Those who are extremely evaluative of themselves. Those who are extremely concerned about their self esteem, self capability, self confidence, they are likely to indulge in a political behavior. Likewise, internal locus of control. You might remember internal and external loci of control we discussed. Internal locus of control, who believe largely that the most of the things, most of the developments, most of the scenarios around them are controlled by the factors which are inherent to them, which are internal to them, right? They are the people who are more likely to indulge, to engage in political behavior. High mark, we understand the Machiavellianism, we understand it as one of the three dark triads, if you remember. Machiavellianism is one of the dark personalities where people with high mark score are more likely to resort to things like manipulation, mending, altering, things like that. Organizational investment, when there are high stakes involved, when there are really high stakes involved by the organization. So, for instance, when somebody has invested to the bottom dollar into the organization's towards the organization's growth. So, for instance, Reliance, the top management, the owner, the promoters have invested heavily on telecom. So, what to do? You have to resort to political behavior. Give your product for free for 2 minutes, for 2 months or 6 months, whatever. Make your customer, create a customer base, snatch the customer from the incumbent service providers and make them your customers. And then gradually, when they get used to your product, you can definitely introduce some tariff rates, right? That's quite a political behavior. Perceived job alternatives, when you have several alternatives, you tend to behave in a politically motivated manner. Say, for instance, when you have an offer from outside, and so what happens when you have an offer from outside? Your bargaining power will increase. Your power to raise your stakes, or your power to make them listen to you, will increase, and hence political behavior might creep in. Likewise, expectations of success might prompt you to resort to a political kind of behavior. Likewise, organizational factors, reallocation of resources. Yes, as we discussed, resource allocation is promotion opportunities. Low trust environment might result in political behavior. Role ambiguity, when there is no clarity of role, it might result in a political behavior. Likewise, unclear performance evaluation system. You don't know why somebody is promoted and why somebody is not, despite knowing that that there is efforts from the one who is not promoted also, but then you are tilted, you are biased. So in that case, there will be political behavior. When it is when it is a zero sum reward system. What is zero sum reward system? There is certain amount, so your loss is my gain, or my loss is your gain. There is no additional resources that can be distributed. Everybody will have to be distributed from the same bundle of budget, same bag of budget. Zero sum game. In that case, political behaviors, getting close to the bosses, ingratiating them, flattering them, or moving along with them. Most of the time, such kind of behaviors might democratic decision making, where people's involvement is. So on one hand, you may say democratic involvement, democratic decision making is good, but then what is democratic? There is one flip side to it too, because there are many people involved. The approachability is high, and that gives people a voice, a scope to raise their voice, question, and hence a scope for political behavior. Self-serving senior managers, those who want to see that whatever they want to be done is what is finally done. Such managers may also resort to political behaviors. That that is that's as much about political power and politics, political behavior, and I think that's much about power and politics in the organization context.